Jeanine Pirro didn't simply dismiss the felony criminal charges against David Hearn, which were these ginned up, fabricated charges for allegedly vandalizing the reflecting pool. Indeed, Jeanine Pirro created a roadmap for future prosecutors to go after Donald Trump criminally, Jeanine Pirro criminally, and anybody affiliated with the prosecution of David Hearn. And she also provided a roadmap for the impeachment of Donald Trump. You see, Jeanine Pirro, to cover her own ass, didn't simply file a motion to dismiss in the interest of justice regarding the fabricated charges against David Hearn. She threw everybody under the bus and tried to distance herself from the prosecution of David Hearn. Now, it is the prosecutor's duty to gather all of the evidence before going in front of a grand jury, before criminally prosecuting people, especially for felony charges. You can't be like, oh, well, the Department of Interior, they screwed me over at the DOJ. You're the DOJ. You should not be filing charges until you're confident you have all of the documents. But in any event, in Jeanine Pirro trying to protect herself from potential criminal prosecution, her own impeachment, her own accountability, which, by the way, she's not going to be able to avoid, she threw Trump under the bus. She threw Doug Burgum under the bus, the Secretary for the Department of Interior. She threw everybody. She threw her old network state regime media Fox. They could be on the hook right now for another defamation lawsuit to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars, just like the Dominion case. If I'm Fox right now, because I platformed Jeanine Pirro, who lied about David Hearn, and given the connections between Pirro and Fox that she used to be a host, if I'm state regime media Fox, you would be very nervous that you're going to be liable for a massive defamation lawsuit by David Hearn, and that all of these people can both be sued and in a future DOJ actually be prosecuted. Yeah, it's a crime to try to frame an individual for felonies in order to cover up your own gross incompetence regarding a frickin' reflecting pool. There's a broader point I want to bring up here too, because this behavior by the Trump regime regarding the reflecting pool and all of the lies they said about vandals and 350-yard gashes, right? These are the people who are running the catastrophic and unlawful war in Iran. These are the people who purport to be running the economy right now, filled with lies, just like the reflecting pool. Paint it blue. The algae always comes back and exposes these damn con artists. Let me just show you the roadmap for impeachment right now. And then I want to show you some receipts as well that will be used in a future impeachment trial against Donald Trump and in future criminal proceedings against the people who were involved. Not just lawsuits, of course. David Hearn probably can sue Fox. He can sue the federal government. He could sue all of these people right now. But I think that there's criminal liability here as well when there's a future DOJ. This is what it says. The United States of America, by and through its attorney, the United States Attorney for D.C., respectfully moves to dismiss the indictment against David Hearn. And it says, based upon the initial reports provided by the Department of Interior and the U.S. Park Police, the United States Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia presented the grand jury with evidence that damage to the reflecting pool was caused by vandals, including the defendant in this case, David Hearn. However, it was not until after the return of the indictment that the DOJ provided additional documents to the USAO, the United States Attorney's Office for D.C., indicating that the damage to the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool in June 2026 was the result of flawed installation by the contractor, Atlantic Industrial Coatings, and the rush to complete the project prior to events associated with America 250 in the week surrounding Independence Day 2026, aka it's Doug Burgum's fault, it is Atlantic Industrial Coatings' fault, it is Donald Trump's fault in the rush to do America 250. Let's read more. It was not until after these documents were produced that the United States Attorney Pirro first became aware of information showing that the damage was the result of a botched installation and not vandalism as initially represented by the Department of Interior. Again, throwing Burgum under the bus, but throwing Trump. Trump was the one saying this too. Indeed, the United States Attorney for D.C. could only rely on the information provided by the DOI, Department of Interior, that the damage was entirely caused by vandals, including the defendant in this case, David Hearn. Because these recently produced materials significantly undermine the evidentiary basis for the indictment initially supplied by the Department of Interior and U.S. Park Police, the United States Attorney's Office respectfully moves to dismiss the indictment without prejudice. And again, throwing the Department of Interior, the Park Police, Trump, all under the bus. And Jeanine Pirro saying, we were given false information. It's your job to gather the right. It wasn't like these documents didn't exist. Sure, the Department of Interior may not have turned it over right away, but you're the DOJ. You're supposed to go and find these documents. You show up at the Department of Interior, knock, knock. We want the documents. We're not going to do this indictment until we have everything. You have all this access to FBI agents and lawyers. Go and interview everybody at the Department of Interior. What the hell are you doing? So then it talks about this letter that was circulated internally within the Department of Interior before you had the indictment of David Hearn. Specifically, 8 days before David Hearn was seen and arrested near the pool, even before he was even arrested, a Park Service engineer sent an alert warning of peeling in the reflecting pool. Hello all, this morning an area of reflecting pool coating was identified to be peeling. The staff was notified and I was able to inspect the area. Below are some notes on my observations and conversations with the contractor. Only the top layer of the liner has peeled off. This is very thin and will not impact the strength of the liner. The color underneath the peeled area is still dark, American flag blue. The total peeled area is small, less than 1 square foot of non-continuous. The contractor stated that the peeled area was overspray from spraying the perimeter joint with the polyurea. And again, this then deteriorated even more by the time David Hearn got there. And then when you go through this motion by the Department of Justice, again, dismissing their own indictment, grounds for the government's motion to dismiss. Pursuant to the Department of Justice principles of federal prosecution, a criminal prosecution should only be maintained if the defendant will more likely than not be found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt by an unbiased trier of fact, and that the conviction will be upheld on appeal. And they cite the Justice Manual. Maybe consult the Justice Manual before you bring these frivolous indictments. Based upon our review of the record in light of the materials only recently disclosed by the Department of Interior, the government moves to dismiss the indictment without prejudice. The Department of Interior provided less than fulsome information. In other words, they're accusing Doug Burgum of fraud at the outset. However, the information subsequently demanded by the USAIO, disclosed by the Department of Interior, which was not known to the prosecutors or the grand jury before returning the indictment, strongly suggests that a rush and botched installation by AIC, the primary contractor, led to the damage to the lining of the reflecting pool. It was not until the United States Attorney Federal prosecutors repeatedly reached out to the DOI dozens and dozens of times that the DOI slowly started trickling information to the USAO DC. Had the Department of Interior been forthcoming with the information clearly in its possession, the government would not have sought the grand jury indictment. How about you didn't have to seek the grand jury indictment to begin with until you got the document? What was the rush? Oh, wait a minute. Donald Trump was rushing you. And then at the end of their brief dismissing these charges against David Hearn, Jeanine Pirro puts the following coup de grace against Donald Trump. Finally, a recent visual inspection showed damage throughout the reflecting pool, even in the middle of the pool, where a vandal would not likely attempt to peel the lining. Given all of this newly discovered information, it is difficult to attribute the widespread damage to the reflecting pool to vandalism, let alone to establish the fact beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't know, perhaps you should have thought about that before bringing this frivolous indictment, but then again, this all traces to Donald Trump. This is a bigger deal than just, okay, it's the reflecting pool, it's David Hearn. Yes, big deal, someone's life, felony prosecution, frivolous, but it was directed by the United States president. That's what took place here. And when David Hearn sues, he should be able to take Donald Trump's deposition, who was intimately involved. First, let me share with you the supercut of what Donald Trump was saying. Play this clip.
We had vandalism. No, vandalism. You know, we have I think 290, 300-foot slit right through it, probably a box cutter or a knife of some kind.
Somebody went in with a knife and cut it. They cut it up good, and then they cut a 200, 350-foot slip in the form of lots of little slips, a real horrible stuff.
They took razors and they started cutting this, very expensive stuff.
We caught some people vandalizing our beautiful reflecting pool.
They tried to destroy it. They cut it up with a box knife and tried to destroy it.
Then let me show you now the supercut that we prepared on the MeidasTouch network. Let's play that.
The vandalism is very real, despite what Tim Walz wants to say. It's an imaginary problem. No, it is not. It's a very real problem.
Reflecting pool is so beautiful. They tried to destroy it. They cut it up with a box knife and tried to destroy it.
A lot of people, when this first happened with the pool, didn't believe the president that there was vandalism. That's not the case.
Yeah, it's not the case at all. In fact, I was at the reflecting pool yesterday. There not only is a vandalism that is reflected in today's indictment, but there is a cutting of the liner of the pool at the base of the pool for several yards across the pool. And someone was intent on doing incredible damage to the pool.
The contractors who did the initial work with the reflecting pool, are they to blame for the current condition, or is it
No, we had vandalism. No, vandalism.
But it peeled off. Why? Why did that happen? Do you know?
It didn't peel off. There was vandalism. There was box cutters. There have been 7 arrests. There was people literally trying to destroy part of a monument. The reflecting pool is not just a pool on the mall. It is part of the Lincoln Memorial. And if anybody says that they're going to go and vandalize that, it's no different than if someone was throwing.
And you're 100% sure that what happened with the liner was vandalism. You can prove it.
Oh yeah, absolutely can. And as we drain it, and we've got all the photographs we can see. I mean, there's no possible way.
There are photographs of a person or people cutting a 300 or 350 foot gash in the bottom of the reflecting pool?
Dana, I'm not sure why you and others in the media think that you want to keep trying to question whether or not
Again, just to remind you of the more fulsome conversation between Pirro and Jesse Waters. Again, I personally believe state regime media Fox could get hit with a massive, massive defamation lawsuit by David Hearn because they brought Pirro on, a former host, and they amplified this together. Here, play this clip right here.
I miss you more.
You got to keep Jessica in line.
Yeah.
Maybe come back for a day.
Listen, your show's still great. I love it.
Thank you so much. A lot of people, when this first happened with the pool, didn't believe the president that there was vandalism. That's not the case.
Yeah, it's not the case at all. In fact, I was at the reflecting pool yesterday. There not only is a vandalism that is reflected in today's indictment, but there is a cutting of the liner of the pool at the base of the pool for several yards across the pool. And someone was intent on doing incredible damage to the pool. But what we've seen after are other people who want to do continuing damage. And one of the biggest problems and one of the ugliest things that I think is out there are people trying to destroy monuments and statues, part of our history. And for some reason, they think they have the right to destroy things when the truth is these are national monuments, they're sacred monuments. And so we're going to make sure that the law is followed and that people recognize that D.C. is not the place to come and commit your crime. President has repaired 50 parks and, 48, I think it's 22 fountains and 48 monuments.
The fountains look beautiful by the train station.
They are gorgeous.
That used to be dilapidated.
Terrible. D.C. is safe and beautiful. And that's what the president's doing. And when these anarchists come and we have witnesses, they're like, oh, he didn't do anything. Not only that, there are people working in the National Park Service who come here, they volunteer to work in D.C. and to get berated by these people as though they have the right to destroy a monument. No, you don't.
We saw a lot of this start around the BLM riots.
Yeah.
And now let me show you the more fulsome interview of Doug Burgum on the morning show. Let's play this.
Miles of expansion.
But it peeled off. Why? Why did that happen? Do you know?
It didn't peel off. There was vandalism. There was box cutters. There have been 7 arrests. There was people literally trying to destroy part of a monument. The reflecting pool is not just a pool on the mall. It is part of the Lincoln Memorial. And if anybody says that they're going to go and vandalize that, it's no different than if someone was throwing.
And you're
paint on Lincoln
100%
itself.
sure that what happened with the liner was vandalism. You can prove it.
Oh yeah, absolutely can. And as we drain it, and we've got all the photographs we can see. I mean, there's no possible way.
There are photographs of a person or people cutting a 300 or 350 foot gash in the bottom of the reflecting pool?
Dana, I'm not sure why you and others in the media think that you want to keep trying to question whether or not this is an industrial liner. Every farmer and rancher in America that's had their pickup liner lined by this sprayed on liner knows that you literally, it would never just like peel off or fall off. This is like a strong material.
Yeah.
And it's the size of 8 football fields. And the only way you can end up with actual slices in one spot and not the other is that someone physically cut it. And so but the pool itself, it's not leaking. It was leaking 45,000 gallons a day. It's finally been fixed by President Trump. And the American flag blue is working perfectly. And again, it's beyond me why. I mean, the real scandal is about the fact that the state of our capital was in such total disrepair that some people, no one was reporting about. No one was reporting about the pro-Hamas graffiti on the.
Mr. Secretary, you and I talked about this last month.
Yeah, and we're still talking about it.
Well, because it was July 4th and the reflecting pool was closed.
It was closed because it's surrounded by fireworks. It's closed every year on the 4th of July.
But it was closed prior to that in order to fix the reflecting pool.
But it was closed because the largest fireworks display in the country we talked about was set up, and it lines either side of the reflecting pool. You can't have people around fireworks when they're being set up. Now that the fireworks will come down, the fence will come down. The fence was there because of the fireworks.
Copy that.
There you have it. Well, to me, that all comes out in an impeachment trial of Donald Trump, of a criminal trial. I mean, to me, this is criminal behavior, in my opinion. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks for watching. Get your copy right now of WTF America. Pre-order it right now. The pre-orders are really helpful in helping us plan the release of the book. It's in October 20th, but pre-order it now if you can. Thanks for watching.
Before you go, our book, WTF America, is available for pre-order now. It's the story of how we got here and how we fight our way back. To pre-order, scan the QR code or click the link in the description. Let's do this.